Let's get to we got some other things going on here. Let's get to John Eastman. He's on here. John, thanks for being with us. Well, I guess the judges, judges are running America now, right? Right? They're saying various appointments for U.S. attorney can't be there. They're throwing things out. They're doing this and doing that. What's the deal here, John?
Well, I want to talk about the recent court decisions, both in the Eastern District of Virginia, disqualifying the Trump-appointed interim attorney general in the Comey and Letitia James cases, and then the disqualification of the interim U.S. attorney in New Jersey that was just upheld by the Third Circuit yesterday. I think people are missing the key issue here is, look, U.S. attorneys are officers of the government. They have to be appointed by the president with Senate confirmation, but they're inferior officers. So the Congress can, by law, under the Constitution, vest the appointment authority for those inferior officers in the president alone, or in the department heads, or in the courts of law. And there's a real interesting question there. But what's been happening is the Democrat senators refusing to return the blue slips on these Trump appointees are obstructing anybody from being able to hold that office. And there's a statute, the Vacancies Act, and a couple of other statutes that allows the appointment of interim appointments. And the fight has been over the technicalities of those statutes and whether they were met or whether the terms allowed for them had expired. But I think people are missing the bigger issue, which is Article 2 vests the executive power in the president. And clearly one of the key components of the executive power is the prosecutorial power. And the Democrats in the Senate and then the courts of law refusing to confirm interim appointments made by the president is basically obstructing and preventing the president from taking care that the laws be faithfully executed by having his own people in those critical criminal prosecution offices. I think this is an egregious violation of separation of powers, giving the courts that authority. And it's an egregious violation by the Democrats in Congress of the executive power. Imagine this. Congress also has the power of appropriation. Suppose they zero funded the Supreme Court. Nobody would say that that's a valid exercise of their appropriation power because it intrudes on the powers of the judiciary. And I think the same thing is going on here. The Democrats' refusal to return blue slips on key presidential appointees, these U.S. attorneys, is obstructing the president's ability to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. And they're doing it deliberately. They're trying to slow walk this president and able to fulfill the agenda that we, the American people, elected him to push. And so far, unfortunately, they're getting away with it on a lot of fronts. And I think these judges rejecting the interim appointments, I think, is one of the key fronts that we're looking at right now.
John Eastman with us. John, for our audience that might not know what it is, define a blue slip.
So there's a practice. It's not anything legal or constitutionally required, but there's a practice in the Senate that home state senators are asked to return a blue slip saying, yeah, we're okay with this appointee. And the practice has developed that if the home state senators aren't okay with any appointee in their district, whether judges or U.S. attorneys, then the nomination doesn't move forward to a confirmation vote. And the Democrats are deploying that longstanding custom as a block on the president getting any of his nominees in those states where both senators are Democrats.
John, how do we overcome what you just outlined?
Well, I think there are two things. One, I think Senator Thune needs to say enough of this. It's no longer a collegiality custom. You are using this to obstruct the president from having any of his nominees confirmed in your state, and we're not going to tolerate it. And just ignore the refusal to return the blue slip and hold a vote. And there's no doubt that these nominees would all get a majority vote and would be confirmed. And if Senator Thune's not willing to do that, then I think the president needs to press the separation of powers issue pretty vigorously. And the disqualification of the U.S. attorneys down in Virginia has been appealed to the Fourth Circuit. I'm not hopeful of a favorable ruling there, but I think the U.S. Supreme Court will get involved in this fairly quickly, and I think they need to press it. And I think they need to press the separation of powers issues, not just the technicalities of the Vacancy Act, because at bottom, that's what this is. And the Constitution's text allows appointments of executive officials by the courts of law as one of the options. But that was never understood to allow the courts of law to appoint executive officials. It was understood to let the courts of law appoint inferior officers in the courts, like magistrate judges. This cross-branch appointment authority, I think, is beyond what the founders of that clause envisioned. And I hope they press that issue and get the Supreme Court to clarify.
John, I got 2 minutes. Let's turn to Atlanta, Fulton County. That whole Trump election fraud that they did is thrown out. Prosecutor doesn't want to go forward. Judge threw it out. But now Fulton County has to pay restitution, tens of millions of dollars. What is up with that?
Well, yeah. So in 2025, it was passed in 2024 and took effect January 2025. The state legislature passed a law that said if there's any DA disqualified for misconduct, and then the case is ultimately dismissed, that all of the criminal defendants are entitled to their attorney's fees and reasonable expenses. And you can imagine in that sprawling thing that has went over 2 years now before, that those expenses are pretty big from the 18 different defendants. So 4 of them cut plea bargains. So from the 14 defendants that remained, we've been working on my own application. It's going to be pretty close to 7 figures. And I think President Trump's group of lawyers is probably going to be pretty close to 8 figures, 10 million alone is front. So, and it all, according to the statute, has to come out of the budget of the county where the DA was disqualified. So it's Fulton County's budget. And hopefully the voters of Fulton County will take notice of that and realize what a disaster the DA that they elected twice now to run that office has been.
What a total clown show. John, tell us about your Give, Send, Go account to help you with your legal fees.
Sure. We're going to get some of the legal fees back from Georgia, hopefully, but I've still got Arizona. I've still got my California bar thing. We spent over $1.7 million already. GiveSendGo.com/Eastman. You'll see there we've raised a little under $1 million, but we got to pump that up a little bit to cover the outstandings that I have. So GiveSendGo.com/Eastman. Send a donation. And while you're at it, send us a prayer. My wife and I read them. They're heartwarming. And if you're really interested, go to Update 43 and see. And there's a link there, an article that my kids published defending their dad. It'll bring tears to your eyes, but it's well worth a read.
So sweet. So sweet. John, to you and your wife, whom I've met many times, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you soon.
We had 2 Thanksgivings. We had one with my son's children and him and his wife, early Thanksgiving, and then we went down and had Thanksgiving Day with my daughter and her husband, our 14-month-old. So great fun spending time with the grandkids.
Not the right day to start a diet. John, thanks for being with us. Michael Patrick Leahy right now.